Welcome everyone to the contractor administrative meeting. This will be recorded and we will send out the slides at the end of the meeting. All right, with that, let's get started. Okay, here we go. All right, so just a couple of housekeeping etiquette. Please mute your mic. You should be muted, but if not, please do so unless you want to ask any questions. There will be time for questions. There'll be question slides, so you can ask questions there. You can also add questions into the chat. So if you don't want to forget your question, just type it in there, and then we'll do our best to address it during questions slides or within the chat itself. So some current project wait times. Application to LOI is about 3 to 4 weeks. Our DGPA review process, 1 to 2 weeks. Final documentation review is 3 weeks. And then our inspections are 1 to 2 weeks. For shutdown wait times, depending on the location, it's still about 3 to 4 months. There is more to come on this in our next training, so please stay tuned for that next month. And then I did drop the link in the chat for the meeting poll. Please make sure to take that so that we can track your attendance. That's how we're tracking attendance now. So please make sure to fill that out. We'll drop it in the chat again one more time right before the meeting closes. All right. So upcoming contractor meetings, we've got July 18th is our general meeting, technical. The technical is August 22nd, and then administrative September 19th. Awesome. Okay, so with that, let's have a safety moment. So eye damage due to sunlight. It's getting sunny. I mean, today is cloudy and rainy, but it's been getting kind of sunny lately. So please avoid being outside in excessive or sunny conditions whenever possible. If you have to be, make sure to wear sunglasses that block 100% of the UV rays. There should be like a sticker that says those sunglasses are marked for 100% UV rays. So just keep a lookout when you're shopping for those. The bigger the sunglasses, the better for protecting your eyes. Wear a hat that blocks the sun from your eyes and your face, and then also protect your eyes even on cloudy days. So today is a cloudy day. Just make sure that you're protecting your eyes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into the solar bill credits and incentive programs. So for the solar bill credits and incentive programs, we have our value of solar, which is the bill credit, and this is for all of our customers. So it's a monthly on-bill credit for generation. It's based on our value of solar rate, and this is not net metering. For incentive programs, these are only available by application and it has to go through a participating contractor. We have residential, commercial, and multifamily programs available. All right, so the bill credit. It's also referred to as the value of solar rate. This is not net metering. So in Austin Energy, we don't have net metering. We use the value of solar tariff, and customers don't need to apply for the value of solar. It's going to be already on their bill, again, regardless of if they go through the incentive program or not. Under VOS, credits are for 100% of their solar production. So we're buying 100% of their solar right off of the roof. Customers are also charged for 100% of their on-site consumption. And then the value of solar rate, it's assessed every year. So we look at it annually, but we are only able to change it every 3 years. And so these are based on city council mandates. And right now, the value of solar rate is 9.91 cents. Per kWh for residential and commercial. If you're going over 1 megawatt, it's reduced to 7.24 cents per kWh. So for how to work with solar bill credits, participating solar contractors must educate their customers on the VOS bill credits. All of your sales documentation needs to make sure that it's not referencing net metering. It does have VOS. If it is saying net metering, it's it's verboten. So we want you guys to make sure that your documentation is correct. And we also have a bunch of different resources to help educate your customers on VOS. We have our website, we have the solar education course, and then our new Austin Energy bill explainer. And this one's really nice because it's going to look exactly like this last picture on the right. So if you guys have any questions or your customers have questions, they can always reach out to us. But I definitely recommend looking into our website and the education training. All right, so residential solar rebate program. This is a one-time check and it's at the end of the project. And there is also offers for multifamily. So for our residential, it's 3 kW and above. And then for multifamily, it can be a little bit lower. So we can, and we'll have a separate slide on multifamily. But this is offered for regular and nonprofit multifamily communities. And again, this is a one-time check at the end of the project. All right, so commercial solar incentive programs. We've got two incentive programs for our commercial solar customers. So the first one is our capacity-based incentive. This is for our smaller arrays as well as nonprofits. For nonprofits, it's 90 cents per watt, and our smaller projects are 55 cents per watt. This program is a one-time check at the end of the project. And so then we have our performance-based incentive. These are for medium, large, and extra large projects, and then 8, 6, and 4 respectively. So this program is based on the generation. So it's over 5 years. It'll look like a bill credit on your customer's bill. And this, it'll start when the project is over, and then 5 years into the project, then they will be receiving a monthly bill credit. All right, so registration and requirements. What do you need to be a solar or participating solar contractor? So you're already starting off by being in the presentation. So, so now registering allows you to be, of course, participate in Austin Energy rebate programs and also bid on city projects. Required documentation, you have to have signed the contract, the code of conduct, TDLR, licenses, workers' comp and liability, also automobile insurance. So you should have all these documents to be a part of our program. And then, of course, like I said, coming to our general technical and administrative meetings. And these meetings are every Thursday, every third Thursday of the month. All right. So ongoing contractor requirements, we do want you to have current insurance, all the current program documentation, of course, come to our meetings. And then we want to see constant projects. We do ensure that everything is going well for compliance. And then also making sure that your employee and resource inbox contacts are up to date. So if we're sending you emails to things and then getting bounce backs, we'll want you to update those contacts. And then last thing is to comply with FACTA. So Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act, FACTA. All right, so FACTA is basically a federal mandate mandating businesses and individuals to take appropriate security measures to protect customer information against unauthorized access to or use of information. So what is FACTA data? This is all the information from your customers. So their names, phone numbers, security numbers, social security numbers, email addresses, their physical addresses, all of that like personal information is what FACTA data is. So some security measure examples are just like truncate credit card numbers, limit access to customer information from authorized personnel, create an environment where the data is safe from prying eyes, and then responsible parties. So Austin Energy and its vendors and contractors are responsible for FACTA compliance. So when you come into our project or our program, you'll need to fill out a FACTA. And then also renew your training annually. So if you have new people who are coming in and they're going to need EECP access, we will ask them to sign the FACTA form and review the documents. All right, so questions here We'll move over to the chat. Okay, all right, so some people are not able to see the link, so I'll drop it in again. Here we go. All right, yeah, so log in if you feel yes, please log in and we will record your participation. So now it says, if it isn't already currently documented on one of those three resources, I think it's good to let customers know that they will be billed twice for the 14 customer charge, one for the revenue meter and one for the previous billing meter if the first bill was solar credits overlap in the billing period. Okay, 512, thank you so much. So we are working with our billing team to understand why the double charge is going on. And so if you have a specific example of where this is coming from, please let me know because we've been working with our billing team to try to figure out why there's a double $14 charge. And they should have removed it. So if you have a specific example on this, then just send us an email, solar@austinenergy.com with your with an example bill from your customer. And that way we can work with the billing team. All right, cool. And then I see when when are clients able to receive their rebate payments for commercial solar jobs? Great question. So for commercial jobs, we have our two programs, right? CBI and PBI. For the CBI, it will be a one-time check at the end of the program. And then for our PBI, they're going to see a bill credit on their bill every month for the next 5 years, but that starts after the job is complete. So after we have the installation,
I'm not sure if it's just on my end, but it cut out, so I can't hear you anymore. Just checking to see if it's just mine.
I can't hear either.
Nuts. Okay. Well, Athena, if you'll work on getting your mic back on, I'll take over from here. I've got the next few slides anyway, so no worries. Thank you guys, appreciate it. All right. Give me just a sec to set it up here, and then we'll go ahead and keep going. Alrighty, can you all see my screen okay? Okay, great. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Alrighty, so right now we're going to look at the life of a solar project. We'll come back to questions once we've got Athena back on here, so we'll circle back around to those. But looking at the process of a solar project in Austin, you guys are likely very familiar with this, but just to kind of look at this again and get a refresher. You start the project with the rebate application, making sure that your customer is taking that SolarEd quiz before they get started, before any docs are signed, and that way they're able to sort of set themselves up for success. That will entail also making sure that after they take that quiz, they've got the customer agreement form signed, any system layout details and LOI details back, and make sure those look good before submitting that application. Then you're going to move on to permitting. Permitting is going to be done through Austin Build and Connect. You're looking for anytime you have solar or batteries or pre-wire for solar or rough-ins for solar wiring, you're going to be looking at an aux power electrical permit. Of course, feel free to reach out if you have questions about that, but the Development Services Department or Building and Trade Contractor Services Department is who manages that. So if you've got issues with that, you can always reach out to them using their appointments or chat features on ABNC. Otherwise, what you're going to be looking for is that aux power EP. You're going to submit a DGPA every single time you submit for that aux power electrical permit. However, for anything over 25 kW, anything on the downtown network or anything with an interconnected generator, you're going to need an additional Austin Energy review. So that's when you'd send that DGPA in for review. At that point, once you've got the permit active, you can begin installation. Again, keep in mind things like service rebuilds, meter variance approvals, that does need to happen prior to your solar ops being inspected and installed, or sorry, being installed and inspected. Give me 1 second, sorry. Got a coworker acting up over here. My apologies for that, everybody. That said, once you get that done and make sure that those approvals happen at the beginning of your project, you can get started and do that installation. Again, keep in mind any pre-construction meetings. If you've got questions about your project ahead of time and want to meet with somebody on site, schedule a pre-con meeting. And again, if you're going to cover up any walls, any conduit, anything like that, and you have solar capacity, be sure to schedule that ref in. I'm going to move through these next few just so we can keep going, but inspections, make sure that the system's working properly before you call us out, and make sure that you're using that inspection checklist in the dig before you have us out, so that we're not having to go through a whole bunch of that stuff with you while we're there. Inspection request forms, we're going to continue to use these again until Aux Power electrical permits can do inspection requests on A, B, and C. However, we're not there yet. So please do continue to use that inspection request form in the meantime, and confirm that that permit is paid in full. If you have any issues where you're seeing a charge on there, but it doesn't look like you're able to pay it, please reach out to Solar Inspections. We can help you out there and make sure that those fees are getting billed properly. After you have been inspected and passed inspection, you're going to be looking for PTO. Typically, we install that PV meter 5 to 10 business days after passing the final. Keep in mind, if you need to reach out to anybody to get additional approvals, we've got contact info at the end of these docs here for additional meter approvals as needed, but feel free to reach out if you have questions about that. And then again, closing out the project, make sure that you close out EECP steps. One thing I did not mention here was that at the inspection step, your EECP project should be in the post-inspection stage already. If it's not and it moves over there, please just get it in there beforehand, because we've had a couple of projects that are still sitting in the application step, go through inspections, and then that person is no longer eligible for the rebate. So we want to make sure that we're avoiding that wherever possible. Alrighty, for any commercial projects, anything over 500 kW, you must fill out an interconnection application. This can be found in the dig, pages 82 to 99. You also will need a DGPA application, and that will go through that separate AE review as well. You'll need to provide electrical drawings with engineered stamps, plan sets, and insurance documents as well. And again, if you've got questions about what that process looks like, feel free to consult the dig. It is all right there, pages 82 to 99. All right. I will pass it back over to Athena. Did you get your mic working? Awesome.
I did. Thank you so much. Thanks
Yeah.
all. Apologies for the interruption. All right, so rebate program documents, program guidelines, and customer agreement form. Okay, do you want me to share back the screen or? Okay. Cool. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Program guidelines. All right. So the purpose of these guidelines are to outline the procedures and qualifications for Austin Energy Rebate Program. Our scope is basically to ensure that everyone understands the eligibility and funding, participating contractor obligations, installation requirements, and required documentation. The customer agreement form, we typically call it the CAF. The purpose for this is to confirm important information about the installation and the rebate program having been communicated accurately. The scope is to contractor information, customer information, solar program or project information, and Austin Energy rebate information. These documents, they're available within the homepage of EECP. So right when you log in on the left, you should be able to access all of the updated documents for all programs. Okay, so rebate program guidelines. Participating solar contractors are required to release customers from contractual obligations upon request without penalty anytime prior to the issuance of the LOI or the solar rebate confirmation letter. So before they sign those things, customers should be able to be released from their obligations. Subcontractors are permitted, but they should be noted in the CAF. Participating solar contractors must hold the contract with the customer, and then also pull the application permit with the City of Austin DSD. So the participating solar contractor is going to hold all of those things. Subcontractors are still able to work on those projects with you though. And then the system must be sited in a location where the minimum average of 75 for the total solar resource refraction, so TSRF. We do make sure that it's 75%, and then we would also require a shade analysis if needed. All right. Okay, so for residential, the customer agreement form looks a little bit like this. So if you've been in our program a bit, you will see this and hopefully it's familiar to you. Customers must initial the agreement. So where we have those lines, please make sure that they understand all of those points. Again, subcontractors are allowed, but they must be disclosed on this CAF. So there's a section there for subcontractors. Customers are required to take the Solar Ed exam before signing the contract. So just make sure that they've taken it, it's complete, all of those things before you sign the CAF. And so we do check for that. And then if the estimated system production is over 110% of the customer's consumption, then we just want to make sure that it's noted in the CAF. So we have that oversizing waiver section there. So if they're planning on getting an EV or they changed to all electric appliances, all that stuff, just put it up in there and yep, that's exactly it. And it will be just helpful for us to move forward. Right. All right, so if there is a primary contractor, they must sign in addition to the customer. So down below, we want our customer, our primary contractor, and then subcontractor slash solar installer. Like we want all of those things signed in there, please. Then also for our calculations, KWAC equals 0.83 times the KWDC. So if anyone is wondering on how we do those calculations, that's it right there. And then the incentive amount within the CAF must match EECP. And that's a big one there. Cool, thanks. All right, so any questions in the chat that we haven't addressed already?
Athena,
Let's
if you
see.
wanted to go back to yours, I know yours cut out for a little while, so if you want to go back to that one, feel free.
Yes,
Angela
okay,
asks, can we get
so
this emailed? Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I see. Okay, so I was talking about when you were going, are clients able to receive their rebate payments? Okay, so sorry, I cut out, but they will receive their payment if they're in the CBI at the end of the project. If it's PBI, they will have a on-bill credit, but that's still also at the end of the project. So once everything is completed, they will start to see those payments on their bill. Okay, and can we get this emailed to us? Yes, we will send out a PDF of the slides at the end of the presentation. Okay.
Just one quick note on that. You can also get these recordings on YouTube. If you look up Austin Energy Contractor meetings, you can find them there as well. So.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so how to process enrollments using EECP. All right, so EECP, Energy Efficiency Collaboration Platform, this is the program that we use to capture all of our rebate information. So when you first log in, the page is going to look a little like this. You'll see there's announcements and then there's also publications. So if you look at the publications, that's going to be where all of our important documents are. You can download them and they're all our most recent up-to-date documents. And so it's a web-based application system, and you can find your in-flight enrollments. You can upload helpful documentation. This is also where the confirmation letters and the LOIs are going to be generated. So it's automatically generated through EECP. So the best practice is to have a resource account, and then your next best practice is to have one login per person. Please don't share an individual's account. Because going back to FACTA, we want to just make sure that everybody who is using our platform is going to be able to have that FACTA signed. Most common issues, login issues, are that your insurance is expired or your password has changed Also, if you haven't logged in within 30 days, your account becomes inactive. If any of those issues, if you have any of those issues, please send an email to Austin ESS Contractors at austinenergy.com, and then they will be able to reset your password and things like that. Also, for insurance documentation, just send the uploaded or the updated insurance documentation to that email address, and then they will be able to get you up and running. All right, so residential solar rebate program. So the process is that the customer must take the online course and the training. Once they have completed their education course, it takes about 30 minutes and there's 10 questions at the end. Um, then they will get an enrollment number or a confirmation reference number. That is the number that we will see on the customer agreement form that needs to be signed. And again, the solar quiz is done prior to signing the CAF. After the CAF is done, is signed, and then everything looks good, we'll issue a rebate confirmation letter. So for new builds, it's 365. For existing, it's 120 days. And you'll have that time to install. Once everything is good, we have our documentation, the rebate will be issued, and it's $2,500 at the end of the project. This goes straight to the customer. Just so everyone is on the same page, funding will not be allowed to projects that have been installed prior to receiving the solar rebate confirmation letter from Austin Energy. All right. Okay, so workflow steps within EECP. So EECP, on the left, we have our workflow step, and that's how we will address kind of like the stages of where your application is. So your application will start in application step. This is where the solar quiz number and the CAF, please submit those. The contractor is the owner of that step. Then we'll go to pre-installation, where we are reviewing, making sure that everything is good to go. And then from there, we'll issue the confirmation letter where you're good to install. This is basically a commitment from us for the $2,500. After installation, if it is a new build, making sure that you add that final invoice signed by the applicant. Warranty and change orders, if anything changes within your project, like please just note it in that installation step. And that way we can go in and verify that the changes were made. After that, requesting an inspection is done outside of EECP. So please go to austinenergy.com/solar inspections. And that's where you'll get a form where you can request that final inspection. It's not through EECP, it's not through Amanda, it's through our form. All right, great. So then after that post-inspection, again, verifying that everything has passed, and then we'll do a QA review, checking out that final documentation. If anything needs to be corrected, we'll have a QA corrections loop. And then after that, we'll initiate the payment. So for residential, it's that one-time check at the end of the program or the process. And so $2,500 will be sent to the customer. All right, so for commercial, it's a little bit different. First, we want to make sure that all the documentation is signed, so a customer agreement form. And then we have the encumbrance, which is 180 days for the customer and the contractor to sign and upload the contract and the DGPA. And these forms, once they're uploaded, once these are signed and uploaded, then if the program is requesting funding over 74K per year, then the city council will need to approve it. This could take up to 2 months, depending on where you are. So yeah, depending on where you are in the process, it can take up to 2 months. So if you are trying to get your program up and running sooner rather than later, make sure that you have that documentation and communicate with us, and we can help you guys go through that process. But again, it needs to get approved by city council, so we are following their timelines. After, if it gets approved, then we do a letter of intent to fund, and after you get that letter, you're good to install. From there, either you're installing, all the documentation gets turned in, and again, if it's PBI, the bill credit, or it will show up as a line item on the bill, and then if it's CBI, it's one check at the end of the program. All right, so the workflow steps for commercial are pretty similar. So we'll start with the application, and we'll have an encumbrance time. And within that time frame, you're going to have the CAF, the solar system layout, and we want some consumption or like history or an estimate of if it's a new build. And then again, if you need to have RCA approval, then that step will go through RCA. Afterwards, we'll do a pre-inspection, and that's where the LOI will be issued. After that, the contractor owns the installation step. Again, for new builds, you're going to add that final invoice signed by the customer. Sorry, for new builds, you'll need to enter your account information. And then everyone needs to add their final invoice signed by the customer. Again, request inspection. So it's going to be the same process for residential. You go to austinenergy.com/solar inspections. And once it's not an ECP, once you do that and we're able to inspect, then we'll have a post-inspection where we verify that the system has passed inspection. We'll have a QA review for all the documentation. If anything needs to be updated, we'll do a corrections loop. And then at the end, we'll either issue the rebate check or start the credits on the bill. All right, so for RCA schedule, the next one coming up, the deadline is July 23rd, and that is for your DGPA and contract to be submitted. So if it's coming up to July, like please make sure that you have all that information there. If it's the 23rd and we don't see that information there, we can't move forward. And it has to be like accurate information. Please upload accurate information. And for now, what we're seeing for our PBI, we're at 10% of capacity for tier 2, and then commercial CBI, we're at 65% capacity. If you guys ever have any questions on our CA schedules or things like that, you can definitely email us, solar@austinenergy.com. All right. Okay, so how to process residential enrollments, application and pre-inspection. All right, so this is the first page of a residential form with an EECP. What we want you to see is your reference number. This is the number that the solar education course gives your customer. So your customer, work with your customer to get that number there. And then the construction type, it's either new or existing. If your project has battery storage, please indicate that here. And then addition to an existing system, if that's the case, again, note it here. We will need an account number and it will auto-populate the other information once it's there. So it'll auto-populate customer and premise ID if you type in that account number. All right, so the applicant and the account holder might be different. The person applying for the rebate needs to be either the account or the TCAD listed property owner. So if you go onto TCAD and you'll find that the person up there matches the account number, you're good. And so we just want to do some verification there on terms of like who is asking for this system. For developers of new build properties, they can be the applicant, but you have to have a W-9. For residential and CBI programs, the mailing list is where the check is going to be delivered. So like you can click mailing different is the same as installation address, and then you don't have to type it twice. But if it is different, then please make sure to have that information filled out. All right. Okay. So determining if the applicant is the Austin Energy account holder. So the payee must be one of these following. So an Austin Energy account holder, an authorized user, a TCAD property owner, or a developer. And again, it's that W-9 that we're looking for. Once you've done all that information, make sure to click the Save button before you proceed to anything. And then also just have all of the signatures and names and documents be consistent to match TCAD if necessary. We're really just looking for consistency here with these documents and signatures. All right, so the documents page, you will need to upload the CAF layout. If there is a shade analysis required, you'll upload that. And then any requests for timeline extensions, also we want it documented here. Just to note though that they can't be deleted. So if you're working on multiple projects, just making sure that your document you're uploading matches the application that you're uploading it to. Just doing that quick double check helps us a lot. So yes, if you're uploading documents, they can't be deleted. Just do that double check. All right, so here's an example of a layout, and what we're looking for is a NABCEP certification. We do check out to make sure that those are accurate. So NABCEP certifications, make sure your certifications are up to date. Informations about the project should match the EECP and the CAF. So yes, please make sure that all that information there, it all matches across the board. And then what we want to do is company name. Please make sure that your company name is on there. If you're using a subcontractor, the primary contractor must be on the contract. I think I've said that a couple times. I'll say it more times, but yes, like you can use a subcontractor, but everything has to be with the primary contractor. And then please make sure that the customer name and installation address is on your layout. So, if it's 123 Test Street, make sure 123 Test Street is on there. Awesome. Okay. All right. So the measures page. You'll have to input all of your information from the layout into EECP on the measures page. The way to edit the measures page is by clicking on the white space, and then all of the fields that are editable will become active. So what we want to see is the total cost. If you're adding batteries, please add that into your total cost. If you have, so like group arrays that are the same tilt and azimuth. And then we have a minimum array tilt of 5 degrees. You will also need to input the contractor estimated annual generation as well as the customer annual energy consumption. These fields also should match the CAF. After that, you can click process and then you'll be able to send it over to us, and that just lets us know that it's ready for review. All right, so EECP does a really good job of showing you all these warnings. So a couple of pop-ups will occur if you have TSRF is under 75%. If your production is too high, if your production is too high and over 110, again, this is or when batteries are not included, it'll give you this warning. If for any reason you are oversizing, then we just want it noted in the CAF. And so you can say added an EV charger or something like that. Yeah, so just make sure it's added in the CAF. If you see the warnings, please do read them. It'll kind of give you advice on how to fix the problem before you submit the application. To go back to the application, you can just click cancel, and that'll let you go back to like fixing it. If you don't make any corrections, then the application will go through the correction loop. All right, so EEC warnings continued. All right, so the dollar per watt amount. So this is gonna, again, it's gonna trigger if if the cost is too high. So you can just hit cancel and then go back. I mean, the most common thing is that we see that there are batteries. So just go ahead and like revise if there are like updates to the batteries. And like, of course, exclude non-solar items. So no new solar roof or anything like that. Like EV charging, that doesn't count towards the cost. All right, Kim. You
Okay, so
ready?
this is the application correction process. So the first step is your application is reviewed. If changes are needed, the reviewer places the application on hold with the reason code listed as application incomplete. From this, an email is sent to the contractor to ensure that you're able to make the proper changes. Step two is the contractor makes changes. Contractors can now edit measures. You're going to make those changes and update that reason code as requested updates complete. From here, an email is sent automatically to the Solar Act inbox, letting us know that your application is ready to be re-reviewed.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. All right. So once everything is all submitted, you will receive a confirmation letter or LOI, and this goes to the customer and the contractor. So this is an example of a residential where you'll see here that there is that rebate amount. So $2,500 again for residential rebate. And then the top of this letter will also have the enrollment number. That'll be helpful for your customer whenever if they are ever like asking for information. So that's an example of one there for the residential program. All right, so questions. Okay, let me open the chat. Okay, can we get this emailed to you? Yes, we said that we'll send out a PDF. If the install already started, can the customer still take the quiz and get the rebate? So unfortunately, no. We do want the customer to take the Solar Ed exam prior to installation and prior to that solar confirmation letter. So we will only offer the solar confirmation letter before installation has happened and after they've taken the quiz. So quiz, letter, installation. All right, so how long does it take to be informed of any necessary corrections? So right away when we move the application in EECP to incorrect or application incorrect or anything like that, then EECP will automatically send a letter to the contacts listed there. So that's why it's super important to make sure that your contacts within EECP are up to date. So if you have a change in staff or anything like that, just let us know because again, if we're sending emails to a monitored or unmonitored inbox, we have record that we sent it out and so that's kind of where we're going off with. So if you have any updates, just let us know. It's a super easy fix. All right. Okay. So those are all that I see in the chat. If you all have any more, please continue to add them up there. And yeah, let's move on. All right. Solar rebate program compliance. Oh, back to you, Megan.
Athena, appreciate it. So let's look at program compliance. What are the do's and don'ts of compliance? So we've combined this. If you guys have seen this in the past, you may be looking for 2 slides on this. We've combined sales proposal and customer signatures into one. So we'll just go through a few of these, but one quick note to point out, we do know when documents are being altered after they've been signed. Please don't do that as a general rule of thumb. You don't want to alter documents after they're signed, but particularly for the rebate program, we will call it out and we'll ask you to correct those, and it will result in delays in your project. So please just avoid doing that. That said, other do's and don'ts, looking at the value of solar credit, do calculate the payback using VOS. Note that it's available as a bill credit. It is not a cash back payment. Do also note that it's subject to change with utility rate evaluation. I believe we said that this is on a rolling rate, could change up to every 3 years. So just keep in mind that this is subject to change and could change. And please communicate that to your customers as well. Do not calculate the payback using net metering. If you guys are using net metering still, we do not offer net metering in Austin Energy territory. So your payback period is not going to look accurate and your customer will be reaching out to us within a few months of getting that solar online and asking about why their bill looks different than what they were pitched. Also, don't use language guaranteeing the VOS credit. We want to make sure that we're using language that is flexible as needed to convey the accurate information to customers. However, obviously, if they are participating in solar in Austin Energy, they should be able to claim that VOS credit, but it is not a guarantee. Also looking at a couple of other do's and don'ts. So looking at the investment tax credit, do calculate it using installation costs minus discounts and incentives, and then multiplying it by the 30%. Don't include discounts and incentives in the eligible costs because obviously you're going to be taking a slightly different 30% than what they're expecting. And you want to get that number as accurate as possible. Do encourage customers to seek advice on eligibility from tax professionals. You can typically do those for free. We're out of tax season right now-ish. I guess corporate tax season is still going on, but that said, you should be able to tell customers to reach out to a tax consultant and talk through any ITC questions as they may have. Don't guarantee eligibility of a tax credit. Again, same thing as the VOS. Even though it is offered, it's not something that we want to tell people they are guaranteed to get when they go solar. All right, a few other do's and don'ts. Looking at customer signatures across the board, do get handwritten signatures. Don't backdate forms. Again, goes back to that first statement. We know when these things are being altered after the fact, so don't do that. Use verifiable tracking methods, aka DocuSign or electronic signatures, and do provide a new signature if there have been changes to the document after signing. So if you guys need to update a CAF, we would much rather have an updated CAF with new signatures and new dates rather than trying to go and backdate something and then fill in signatures before or after the fact. Have the customer sign documents before you fill out the information. Again, some of this is counter or is pretty intuitive, right? And then don't alter any information after the customer has signed. Alrighty, moving on. Shade analysis requirements. So shade analyses should be conducted on site and in person. This should include a layout that displays where each measurement is taken by drone or flight path, which identifies any project or any object, omitted from the report. Keep in mind, these do not have to be drone analyses. However, you do need to make sure that you can prove that this stuff was done on site and in person. You can't just do it on like Google Earth or anything like that. Tilts and azimuths should match what's in EECP. Shade access and TSRF measurements at each location. Total average TSRF for the entire roof is what we're going to be considering. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the different arrays. And then kilowatt hour production of the system is going to be that end number that we're sort of looking for there. To avoid warnings, make sure that it's over 75%. We reserve the right to request TSRFs for specific locations, and we'll ask you guys to provide those shade analyses within 10 business days of that request if we find that you're in violation of that 75% TSRF minimum. Okay, I know we ran through those pretty quickly. Any questions that came up? Doesn't look like any new questions, so I'll go ahead and keep going. Feel free to add them in the chat if you've got any. Thank you. All right. And actually, Athena, oh, sorry. I was going to give it back to you, but I'm like, is this mine or is this yours? Go ahead.
All right. I will just take it. Thank you. Okay. And then just a reminder, everyone, if you scroll to the top of the chat, the form that you fill out for attendance is there, and then we'll drop it again at the chat at the end of the meeting. Okay. So how to process enrollments. Let's do it. Okay, so similar to before, for the installation workflow step process, you're going to go ahead and click into the white space, and that's how you'll be able to edit the measures within the installation workflow process. So if there are any changes, just add them into there. Make sure that anything that is changed from like initial review, so all of your layout stuff, if anything updated, just put it all in here, and then also upload that document into EECP. So this is your like last chance to update the measures on your end. So if anything has changed, just throw it on in there, and then we'll be able to review. All right, so here's an example of an invoice. So we want to make sure that we have company name, customer installation, customer address, and then these do need to match the CAF. So just do a double check. The documents are already within the application. So you just do a double check and then we're good to go. Customer signature should be the same person who signed the CAF. So again, if you need to remember who signed your CAF, the documents are already in there. All right, right, so date of signing should be after installation is complete. So we'll do a check to see of when the installation was complete compared to the invoice. So please just make sure that it's after installation. Again, we'll also need some equipment description, so make, model, quantity, and then the total project cost. Also, the 10-year warranty and equipment workmanship warranty, those things are needed to be included as well. All right, so how to request inspections and process EECP enrollments.
So now I'll take it back.
Okay, back to you, Megan.
Thanks, Athena. Alrighty, so requesting inspections. We mentioned this earlier, but just make sure that you guys are using the solar inspection request form. Again, I apologize for the timeline on the A, B, and C inspections requests. We had another project that came sort of took place and took priority. So we're going to release the new A, B, and C portal before we get inspections in there. Again, I apologize for that, but here we are. In the meantime, we can continue to use the solar inspection request form. If you Google solar inspections, Austin Energy, this should be the first link that pops up. So if you're ever, not sure where to go, just search it and you should find it there. There are some conditionally optional fields and conditionally mandatory fields. So once you go through, just fill out everything that is required as indicated by an asterisk. Submit the form and we'll receive this data. We'll schedule the inspection and send notifications at every step of the process. So once you submit it, you and your customer should receive an email saying that it was submitted properly. Once we accept the permitting is complete and accurate, we will also send an email to you all notifying you that it's been accepted and is ready for scheduling. After it gets scheduled, you'll get that time and date via email as well. And then, of course, once you got PTO, you get that email. And any corrections, any deficiencies are noted in those emails as well. Austin Energy, if Austin Energy is not the service provider, do request inspections through Austin Build and Connect. That's going to go through the city of Austin. They will be the ones inspecting. But that's for if you have a project in like Blue Bonnet or PEC territory that is not Austin Energy. And this should be obvious, but request final inspections only after work is completed, especially right now where our queue is pretty low. It's really only about 1 to 2 weeks right now. So if you guys are requesting inspections before the work is done, it is likely that you'll get scheduled before it's complete. So please don't do that. Please make sure all of it's done before you request that inspection. Alrighty, permitting errors. Let's look really quickly at what are some common things that we're looking for and some common things that we see when submitting inspection requests. So really quick, I know some of you may be familiar with this, others may not be, but we do have a public permit portal search. Lots of alliteration in there, but basically you're able to look up your address or the property address for your project. What I always recommend to folks is that they remove that start date or move it back a few years so you can incorporate all the permits that are open currently for that property. And then just add the number and the street name there so that you can get, the most information back. That said, once you do that, you'll be able to see what permits are open. Anything that is in incomplete, pending, or active status is considered open. And then anything in final, withdrawn, or canceled status is actually in closed status. So when we send permits back and say that you've got an open service permit, what we're actually saying is that you've got an open electrical permit that is not an aux permit, and that work needs to be closed out first before you can schedule the final solar inspection for aux. You can consult the DIG. There's lots of information about what types of permits will prevent us from scheduling that final inspection for the solar aux permit, or reach out to us at Solar Inspections and we can kind of help you out there. But just keep in mind this portal is public, so your customers also have access to this, and anybody on your team has access to this without a login. You guys can check this permit statuses beforehand and before scheduling that inspection. All right, looking a little bit more at some of the submission errors that we see when requesting inspections. One quick note here is the difference between a rough-in and a pre-wire inspection is solar capacity, or DG capacity, I should say. So if you've got DG capacity and it's already a sold project and you are installing solar at some point, but you're also going to be burying conduit, that is when you schedule a rough-in. If you do not have any solar capacity, but you are trying to get a house ready for solar or for distributed generation in the future, that will be a pre-wire inspection. And that assumes no capacity is being added. So just make sure you're selecting those the right way when you request those inspections. Also, keep in mind that the contact person on this inspection request should have a phone number listed every single time. If we don't have it listed there, then we're going to having to track it down. And we, obviously want to avoid doing that where we can, just because it's a lot easier if it's all right there. And then we can know who to contact and how to get a hold of you guys. Add your availability in the notes if and when possible, because it will save us extra emails. So if you're available, January 3rd, on the morning at 11 a.m., please indicate that, and we'll, try to do our best to get you scheduled in that time frame. Again, it'll just avoid us extra emails in that solar inspections inbox and hopefully get you answers faster out of it. Alrighty, one other step going back to EECP for this one. So again, I mentioned this earlier, but confirm that the install step is closed before you schedule that inspection. Reason being that there are about 11 or 12 projects right now that have been passed. They have PTO and they are still sitting in the installation step. This is a big no-no. We do not like this. Again, if it's still sitting in that application step when it's installed, your client is no longer eligible. There is a little bit of wiggle room if it's in the install step. However, we want to get those closed, and so we can get your customers those rebate checks and get them started on that. So please just remember to confirm that the install step is closed before you go over there. If you've got questions on how to fill this out, you can, what you're looking for right now is the actual visit date with the date that you are processing the application. So that should be that date there. You select work complete as the outcome, and then answer any mandatory questions and select process. Again, if you've got questions, please do reach out to us about this. But hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Alrighty. Now, this was a question we got a couple of contractor meetings ago, so I apologize for the delay on this. But I know that a couple of contractors have reached out to us about this. So just keep in mind, it is in the dig on page 39, and there's a couple of other reference points as well. But the question was, when are engineer stamped plans needed? Versus, when they're not needed and when you could just have this stamped by a designer. So if you're inside the city and you have tilted panels that are not flush with the roof or panels that extend past the roof line, you will need engineer stamped plan set. Or if you are on the downtown network, same thing. Now, if you're inside the city or in the ETJ or limited purpose for that matter, you will also need engineered stamped plan set if you are attaching the DG to a new structure, or rather, AKA a ground mount or something like it. If you are adding solar roof tiles or batteries, if your project is larger than 500 kW AC, if you have a commercial installation, and keep in mind, you'll also need a building permit as well for those commercial installations, or if you have a utility side interconnection. Any of those things are going to require that engineer stamped plan sets are submitted. So keep that in mind. And again, if you have, email us at solarinspections@austinenergy.com ahead of time so that we can answer that for you. Alrighty, I'm going to move on to who to contact, and I believe I pass it back over to you, Athena. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Megan. All right, yep. So who to contact? All right. So if you have any questions, we've got some helpful links. So of course, the Solar Ed course, we have it in English and in Spanish. We've got our solar rebate programs. The information is at austinenergy.com/solar. For inspections, austinenergy.com/solar inspections. And then, of course, you all probably know the participating solar contractor list. It's there. For any reason, if you see that you are a participating solar contractor, but your name is not on there, it does take a week for you all to get on there. If you're just starting out, if you have any questions, just let us know. We also have information on community solar and green choice, and then of course our commercial incentive programs. All right, so a couple of helpful links outside of our department. We have City of Austin vendor registration for temporary disconnects. There's the number there to request have a meter seal cut or to report cut, broken, missing seals. We've got information there. All right, so I'm not going to read through all of these, but please take a look at those and find the appropriate links if you have any questions. And then I think we have got one more slide. Yes, yeah, all right. So if you're setting in a DGPA, please send it to DGPA review. AEDER feasibility for installations above 500 kWh or on the downtown network. And then there's some more information there. And then, of course, for solar at austinenergy.com. If you don't know where to go, we'll help you out. All right, okay, so I believe I'm going to go ahead and pop in the link for the form. There you go. So again, attendance is being tracked by the link. So please click it. There are some additional questions that we'd like you all to answer. So go ahead and look in there, and then let me scroll up and see if we have more questions. Okay. Okay. Does a field tech need to be at the pre-inspection?
Fun. So you will want to have somebody at the pre-construction inspection so that you guys can discuss the plan set and the project on site. For a rough-in inspection, if we can access the system and it is a residential rough-in, then you do not need to be present for that one. However, for a commercial rough-in or commercial inspection of any kind, we will need people there. And particularly if we don't have access to any particular part of the system, we do need a field tech present so that we can make sure that you guys can help us get into that system without having to intrude on the customer and open up stuff. Alrighty, let's see if we've got other questions here. Nope, looks like just a few people putting their names in here. Please do go and add your name to the link that was provided for attendance from Athena earlier today. That's the way that we started tracking attendance going forward, and it just helps it make it, our process a little bit smoother. So thank you for doing that. And that's all the questions I see, Athena. So I'll pass it back over to you.
Awesome. All right. So now we have a presentation from Dub Taylor on the PACE for Solar Program Review. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. And then Dub, I think you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, sound check. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Can hear you fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Athena, and thanks for the opportunity to provide a briefing on PACE financing and how it can be used for solar and how it has been used for solar in Texas. So go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. And I believe you're going to make this presentation available to the attendees after. So there's some links in there that may be useful, and this is going to be fairly quick and high level. We'll have a little bit of time for questions, but we can follow up afterwards if needed. So what is PACE? PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. This is a financing tool that can provide 100% financing for energy efficiency, water conservation, and DG projects like solar. This is private financing that is secured through a local property assessment. So it's like a property improvement district, but instead of a district, it's parcel by parcel. And this is initiated by individual owners seeking financing for these types of projects. PACE is authorized under state law, the Local Government Code Chapter 399. It is an opt-in structure, so local governments determine if they want to offer PACE financing in their jurisdiction, and then there's a couple of steps they take to make that happen. It's voluntary and open market, meaning that it is not a regulation or anything like that. It is a tool that property owners can use. All contractors that are capable of providing the improvements can do the work. There's not a set list or anything like that. And in Texas, PACE can be used for commercial property improvements, multifamily, as long as it's 5 units or more, and any sort of industrial or manufacturing projects. So anything but single family residential in Texas or residential up to 5 units. Next slide. So PACE essentially allows property owners to use tomorrow's savings to pay for today's upgrades or improvements. This is a way to move projects forward in a way that does not impact their own capital budgets, using other people's money essentially to make these investments that then have long-term benefits for the owner. Key difference between conventional financing and PACE is that most equipment financing has a very short repayment term. typically 5 years or less, depending on the lender and the type of project. So from an owner's standpoint, your payments are much higher than the benefits, and so you're cash flow negative in that scenario. Where PACE, because of the secured nature of the loan, can have a much longer term equal to the useful life of the equipment. So in the case of solar, we typically see 25-year loan terms for PACE, meaning that you're cash flow positive day one and throughout the term of the loan. Thanks. Go ahead and jump to the next one. So thus far, PACE started really operationally back in 2017-ish, and we've seen really kind of exponential growth around the state. Almost $500 million of investment through PACE. Most of this in energy efficiency improvements, behind the meter, HVAC controls, building envelope, things like that. Water conservation, and then the balance has all been solar distributed generation, and that's really the fastest growing piece we're seeing now. Commercial, retail, hospitality, nonprofit, even though a nonprofit organization does not have a property tax liability, they can access PACE, and so we've seen a number of nonprofits access PACE. Next slide, please. So our projects are all listed here. You can see there's a diversity, urban and rural, all types of end use, different mix of actual measures that have been financed, and they're fairly small. So the floor is really functionally about 68, or really probably 100,000 minimum, and then the largest has been 48 million. This was a hotel in San Antonio that's under construction now, and all of these have received 100% financing, so no down payment required for PACE financing. Next slide. And run through a couple of actual projects to show you how this looks. This is actually the first PACE project in the state. This is a house of worship, Congregation Beth Israel in Austin. The interesting thing is that if I could show you the roof, this facility already had solar on the roof. A member of the congregation donated solar, said, I want to provide that to my congregation. And the administrator said, well, could you also provide some HVAC and other things? And they said, no, I want to do solar, which is fine. It's understandable. And so they had solar, but they had really old mechanical systems. So PACE was able to be brought into play here to make those other retrofits. This project secured a utility incentive through Austin Energy on the energy efficiency side. And it's about a $450,000 overall project, resulting in 20% annual utility savings. So again, the use of PACE in a nonprofit scenario, which we've seen quite a bit. Next slide. This project outside of Austin in Elgin, essentially the owner said, I just want solar. Everything else in the building probably is fine. And so they were able to combine a USDA REAP grant because they were in an eligible area for $31,000. This was actually in the Encore footprint. At the time, Encore had its very generous solar incentives that helped buy down the cost of the project. And then they financed the balance, which was $120,000 over a 10-year term. So combining, again, PACE's private financing, so any sort of federal incentives, state, local incentives, you can stack those things to make it more cost effective for the owner. Next slide. Another project in Austin. We see a lot of roofing and solar projects combined. Oftentimes it might be the roof that is the driver, and the roof on its own does not qualify typically from an ROI standpoint, but you add solar to it and it does. This is another project that has a roofing with solar and some other interior HVAC and controls. Next slide. This one's not in the Austin Energy footprint, but in Dallas, a good example of a repurposing project where this is an old cotton gin building in the downtown Deep Ellum area that was completely renovated and repurposed into creative space. And the developer needed to do everything to it and added solar as part of the overall package. So pretty large PACE project. This one was $5 million. think it was an overall $35 million project, but significant electric savings. And then also this had a number of water conservation measures as well. So it could be a standalone project, or it could be combined with other things, depending on the needs of the facility. Next slide. So I mentioned PACE is opt-in, and to date we have almost 100 cities and counties around the state, covering really 3/4 of the state's population, that have created local PACE programs. Next slide. A little drill down on this area. So Travis County was the first county a number of years ago to create PACE, and since neighboring counties have set up PACE programs as well. This map's on our website. The shaded areas are the counties with PACE enabled. You'll see in some cases there is a star, like up in Milam County. That means that PACE was also created at the city level. So Cameron and Rockdale, actually those two cities set up PACE first, then later Milam County set it up to cover everything countywide. And where you see the little light bulbs, that's where there are projects. So that's really the key to our map, and that's on our website as well. Next slide. So our role in all of this, Texas PACE Authority was set up to operate PACE programs for cities and counties that had opted to create them. So understandably, a city or county said, yes, we want to offer this tool to our property owners, to our business community, to make these improvements, but we don't really want to create a new department to run it. So that's where we come in. We work for the cities and counties. We administer the programs. We're a nonprofit. And the transaction is really otherwise a private transaction. So the owner selects its lender, the owner selects its contractors and service providers. They run it through the PACE mechanism, and we sort of internally say we referee the transaction to make sure that everything is compliant with state law and the local program requirements. So that's our role. Next slide. The development process looks like this. We have a quick start guide on our website. Really two main phases: pre-application and feasibility. Is the project that's in mind, does it meet PACE criteria? And when it gets to an application, then there's sort of a second phase where there's pre and post inspections and verifications, as you'd expect to see in any sort of a rebate or incentive program. So pretty standard. And again, this is detailed more on our website. Next slide. So some of the key underwriting criteria is PACE projects are qualified based on their avoided cost potential. So in the case of energy efficiency, water conservation, you have a baseline and you're measuring improvements against that. For solar, generally the baseline is 0, because the property probably does not have any solar. So you're adding to that. So it's pretty easy math to calculate the benefits of solar to meet this SIR requirement. And again, on the pre and post, this is inspected by a third party Texas licensed PE to ensure that the calculations are reasonable, and then also post project that the project is completed and installed and operating as intended. There's a cap. PACE can be used for up to 25% of the appraised value of the property. We look first at the central appraisal district tax value, but often that's much lower than the independent appraised value. So we say it's $1 million property post project. PACE can be used for $250,000 of that project. Loan term is not predefined. It's based on the weighted useful life of whatever's being financed. So again, if it's solar, probably 25 years is what we see. If it's rooftop HVAC, could be 15. Blending those two together might give you a 20-year loan term. Can be shorter than that, but that's going to be the max loan term. And then if there is senior debt on the property, the mortgagee, the mortgage holder, has to provide consent to the PACE assessment, as it is essentially a real estate tax level senior lien on the property. More than half of our PACE loans that have closed have had senior debt, and this is a process we've gone through. So it's a hurdle, not a barrier, but it is an important requirement. Next slide. So it's one of those situations where it really is a win-win. So property owners, gain benefits of lower energy bills, operating costs, resiliency. As contractors, and proposing deals that have price tags that owners, can't absorb, that can end the discussion. This is a way across that financing or that capital challenge. Individual lenders, there's not a prescribed list of lenders. We do have 20 or 30 that are on our website now that we have vetted and can do PACE lending, but it could be any lender. And so this is a pretty low risk loan that is secured by a local tax assessment lien and a new product for lenders. And then overall for the state, some of the kind of public objectives and why PACE was authorized in the first place, obviously reducing peak demand, grid reliability, resiliency, indirectly air quality, reduced emissions from power plants, and preserving finite water resources. At the community level, this is an economic development tool. We often work with a city or county economic development authority. This is a tool in the toolkit that can help a property owner improve their property, maybe help with expansion, retention. In the case of relocation, this can be a tool also that can help with property conversion and reuse. Next slide. So if you're a contractor, which I believe all of you are, you can be listed on our website. You don't have to be listed for to work on a PACE project, but we provide this listing informationally on our website to folks that are looking for contractors to help out with PACE. So we have lenders, contractors, technical reviewers, and then other sort of associated services all listed here. To be listed on the website, there is a self-paced training that you take. There's a test after that. Assuming you pass the test, then you'll get a form to be listed. So again, this is good visibility. It's not a requirement, but it is good visibility that allows us to, when we get inquiries and a property owner says, who should we talk to about solar? We can't say specifically, go talk to company A, but we can say, check out the list on our website. So a good resource there. Next slide. That's all I've got, but here's my email directly. That's our website, and that QR will take you to our website as well. So don't know if there's questions that have popped up immediately looking in the meeting chat, but feel free to reach out anytime to me if you have questions about how PACE works. This is fast and high level. There obviously are more details, so happy to work with you individually to answer any questions that may come up.
Awesome. Thank you, Dub. Yes, so I'll leave this on the screen for anyone who wants to take a picture of that QR code. And I also don't see anything in the chat, but if you all have questions, please reach out. You can send questions to Solar and we'll send it to Dub, or Dub, thank you for sending your email address here. If anyone has any last minute questions on PACE or on our program, EECP, things like that, just let us know. You can also send us an email, solar@austinenergy.com. All right, I'll hang out for a bit in the chat, and then one last time I will drop in the attendance form. And then I think with that, thank you all for your time. All right, 512. So if you want, again, just for FACTA rules on a specific project, if you wouldn't mind sending us an email to solar@austinenergy.com and we can chat about it. Yeah. Thanks.